The University of Canterbury and campus living villages have broken their silence 3 days after discovering the death of a student on their watch. The New Zealand man was dead for a number of weeks before being found at the Sonoda Village in Ilam Christchurch on Monday. The university says it will reconsider the contract it has with the hostel provider, which houses about 2,000 students at the university. Todd reports.
Campus Living owns about 2/3 of the first-year residences at the University of Canterbury. The heat was on its group managing director, John Schroeder, this afternoon, who couldn't confirm when the young man was last checked on. He says there's an investigation in place and promised to find out how a deceased person could remain in a room within close-knit community apartments for so long.
I give you my commitment, and I'm sitting here in front of you with open arms, that we will do everything we possibly can to not only determine what happened to this young man, but correct it from a process and system perspective.
Mr. Schroeder says providing first-year accommodation is a balancing act.
We have to be very conscious of privacy and balancing the wishes and rights of our young adults, and at the same time providing a community for them.
But the university says it will consider Campus Living Village's contract. Its Vice-Chancellor, Professor Cheryl Delaray, says under that contract, the provider is obliged to provide pastoral care for all students. But there are other questions about what happened, including when the student was last seen attending classes.
We undertake to abide by the recommendations of that investigation and to do everything that we can to ensure that no question is left unanswered, and that we do everything in our power to make sure that this never happens again. That it's happened we are extremely sad. We find it devastating.
The university and Campus Living Villages fronted up to media today after a prompt from Education Minister Chris Hipkins.
I do have confidence in the Chancellor and the Vice-Chancellor of Canterbury University and the way they're handling the situation. I think clearly there are some questions to be answered around the firm that was running this hostel and whether they had the right safeguards in place. I am confident the University of Canterbury are taking all of the steps they need to get to the bottom of that.
Meanwhile, students at the University of Canterbury were still in shock today. Students' Association President Sam Brosnahan says he was surprised it could happen within their tight-knit university community.
It has been quite sad for a lot of students involved, but then also just for students hearing the news come through. My take of UC is that we're pretty tight-knit. Most students study on the same campus, most students live close to campus, most students are part of a student-run club here at UC, so I think it wasn't just sadness that kind of met the news, but also kind of surprise as well.
A spokesperson for the police says officers are still piecing together information by talking to people and making other inquiries. Police cannot confirm the man's name as the formal identification process is still ongoing. In Christchurch, Todd, TNA.